You are suspicious. There is something off about this town, you think to yourself. For some unspecified reason, you are unsatisfied with life. There's nothing obviously wrong with the town, but you still have an unsettling feeling. Now that you think about it, the town doesn't feel off. On the contrary, you love the people here and get along with them brilliantly. No, it's 1922. He feels different. Your first week here, all of his ideas seemed like good ones to you. Ever since you noticed his stutter, however, his ideas seem mediocre at best. He can barely form a full sentence without someone finishing his idea for him, and yet everyone always attributes that idea to him. You also have grown less fond of that rod he's always twirling in his hand. You are no longer blissfully fascinated by its shimmer and twirl, though everyone else sure seems to be. You find that really odd. You ask the oldest woman here and your personal friend, 577, about everyone's fascination with the rod, but she barely knows what you're talking about. You have to remind her that he carries it at all. She replies that she barely ever noticed it, and that was probably the case of everyone else here in town. She doesn't know why you would be concerned about it. She's right. It's just a metal pipe. And 1922 is just a man trying to lead a group of people in need of leadership while also overcoming an impressive speech impediment. You're being paranoid. You let it go for today, and go talk to 1922 about what you need to cover at dinner that night. You just want to go on a walk. You feel stressed. You want to take an hour to yourself to go walk around the valleys of trash. You wouldn't go far, and you would keep careful track of how to come home. You said all of this to 1922 as you were talking with him that night. And yet he was firm in his belief that it wasn't safe for one person to wander around the trash piles by himself. It can be incredibly easy to lose, to get lost, without someone without a guide. He stutters at you. You've given up on trying to help him with the stutter. That's what everyone else did, and he would just claim them as his own words. And still he insistently spins that stupid pipe at you. You've caught yourself nodding off at it a couple of times now, like the rest of the camp. It seems to give you an incredible urge to just do as you're told. You used to like obeying, now you don't. You feel constricted. 1922 is still stuttering at you. You make a mistake of looking down at the pipe. You wake up to yourself saying, "Yes, sir, I'll stay here in town." Satisfied, 1922 walks away. His daughter, 1991, who you're especially good friends with here, walks up to you, noticing that you're visibly irritated. "He means the best, she says reassuringly. You don't agree with her mentally, but you do so verbally. He doesn't like to talk about it, but there is another reason that no one is allowed to leave without a group. Interested, you listen. There was another man, a good friend of 1922, who wanted to explore the wasteland and see if he could find somewhere better for the camp as a whole. 1922 didn't like the idea because he thought they might never find again a place as agreeable as the camp they had already settled in. But the other man wouldn't listen and wanted to find a way out, find a place better. So he snuck out one night. When 1922 found out, he left camp himself to go looking for his missing friend. 3 days passed. 1922 could find no trace of his friend. This seems like a reasonable explanation. You still have your doubts, though. Why would 1922 go looking for his lost friend all by himself if he was so against leaving town by herself? You could just be overthinking the whole situation. This incident could have been the inception of his no leaving alone policy. But your doubts are everywhere in your mind. That is how dissatisfied you are with the town. Tune in next week for the next exciting installment in this story brought to you by Big Brother. Hello, I'm Anderson Crow, and you are listening to your local Teakwood live broadcast. As is usual with stories published by Big Brother, aka Every Book and Story, there is a lesson to be learned. Toward the beginning of our little story, I mentioned that there was an unspecified reason our main character was dissatisfied with life, which led to the villainization of 1922, the well-meaning leader of the town. I would like to take a moment and specify that dissatisfaction. His root problem is hidden in his thirst for individuality. Yes, listeners, he has a terrible case of individuality that has caused him to grow unhappy with life, and even dislike the man who took him in when he was at his lowest. He is incapable of seeing the protective hand of 1922 as it is, and sees only malevolent intentions. The subject of our story even seems to be envious of 1922's leadership. That could be a reason that he wants to leave. If he continues on this path of rebelliousness, he will bring nothing but misfortune to this peaceful village. I hope everyone is ready for the exciting events about to transpire today. Yes, listeners, Patriot Day is finally here. An exhilarating day of parades and national pride. Everyone is expected to line roadway 1, which is the path of today's parade. Here you will cheer for all the military leaders as they march down the street in uniform. The floats will be majestic and awe-inspiring, each one worthy of exuberance and praise. Remember that patriotism is easily measured by the strength of your cheering, so don't let the person next to you show you up. Cheer loudly for every float as it drives by. The military police will lead and follow the parade so as to encourage both patriotism and public safety at the same time. Also in the line, you will find floats from all the Federal Academies of Teakwood, with some star students riding in them, a float with tinted windows from the Reclusive Research Laboratory, a float from the Disappearing Guild filled with people you had forgotten had disappeared, and even an invisible float from the Secret Police. See if you can spot it as it drives by. If you do, the Secret Police might reward you with a personal dormitory visit in the middle of the night. All of those majestic floats pale in comparison, however, to the most anticipated float in the parade, our wise and benevolent mayor of all she surveys float. It is a long-lasting tradition at this part of the parade to show your loyalty to our wise and benevolent mayor of all she surveys by shouting "Loyalty!" at her float as loud as humanly possible. If your participation is found unsatisfactory, a short round of re-education might be required. Today, all work will cease at 3 o'clock so as to begin the festivities. Curfew, however, will not be moved, so be sure you're back inside before 6. Before I can continue with today's broadcast, I have a quick word from our sponsors. Today's show was sponsored by the Elementary Academy of Teakwood. The new headmistress, our friend Anna, has an update on the school schedule. The Elementary Academy of Teakwood is no longer going to be a day school, but has been upgraded to a boarding school. Starting next Monday, all the students at the Elementary Academy of Teakwood will move out of their parents' dormitories and into the new student dormitory wing. Our friend Anna decided to do this for one main reason: protection from unrestricted personal postulation. A child's mind, because of its constant growth and development, is always thinking, which, while uncontrollable at the moment, can put a child in a precarious situation. A young child, innocently wanting to learn, may ask a lot of questions, and will ask whomever is around, usually their parents. Those parents may not have had a recent re-education, and might completely accidentally give a legally incorrect answer to the small child. Some would think this is easily correctable. However, an idea is like a virus, easily spread and not so easily destroyed. Once contracted, a bad idea can fester in the back of a child's mind and cause a serious detriment to him as he grows into adulthood. As an alternative, the Elementary Academy of Teakwood is trying to avoid the bad advice altogether by making sure the child is surrounded by teachers of state-approved advice all day and night long. The child will be allowed to come back to their parents' dormitories on the weekends. School lets out at 5 o'clock p.m. on Friday, so as to allow parents time to collect their children and get back inside before curfew. The child will then stay with the parents all of Saturday, and come back to school by 5 o'clock on the next day, Monday, so as to allow the school week to continue. Thank you from your friend Anna, the head mistress of the Elementary Academy of Teakwood. Breaking news, listeners. First, however, I have to make a public update to the collection of thinkable thoughts. Actualized infinity, a new invention that no one has ever heard of before, has become legal and public knowledge. Now, back to the breaking news. Actualized infinity made its debut as a tool used by the military police force to help control crime. For the first time in months, some idiot tried to rob a cafeteria in the 2nd District. Our already efficient police force has become even better at stopping crime in its tracks, literally, by putting an infinite amount of space between the first criminal and his next step. Every officer carries a small pistol, let's call it, and a small bandolier of containers of actualized infinity. The officer simply shoots one canister in the general direction of the convict, and it harmlessly swallows him in a non-existent prison. Hopefully now, any potential or current criminals can see the futility in their endeavors. There is no escape from the state. You know the phrase, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em. Give up any life of crime you have or may have had, because if you don't, you will be found and dealt with severely. I have a statement from the public representative of the Reclusive Researchers Laboratory, the primary developer of actualized infinity. He says that the city is looking for a way to use actualized infinity as an addition to the wall that surrounds our city. Listeners, this is extraordinary news. If Teakwood can successfully use the actualized infinity as an addition to the wall, we would never have to worry about the evils of the outside world ever again. It would mean an end to the nature wars, a conflict that no one thought would ever end. This innovation could be our salvation. It would keep anything from entering or leaving the city ever again. The ultimate utopia is the utopia uninfluenced by the evils of the outside world. Look at the time, listeners. It's almost 3 o'clock. It's time to head over to Roadway 1 to see the parade. Remember to cheer as loud as you can, and to show your patriotism as obviously as possible. I have one more reminder from Big Brother as we close today. They have heard some more rumors that people still think there are these mysterious men in black overcoats, trousers, and fedoras who raid people's dormitories with violent force and then vanish. If an agent of Big Brother hears any more lies like this, which they will if spoken aloud, The perpetrator will be given emergency re-education on the difference between correct and false reality. Alright, enough talking. Let's go declare our loyalty to our wise and benevolent mayor of all she surveys. Have a great day at the parade, listeners, and remember, all is bliss.